Bryan Stevenson's book, Just Mercy, takes on tons and tons of differing issues and themes within its entire novel. And the themes I want to discuss are ones that are constantly embedded within the entire book, which are corruption, entrapment, and bias. These three things constantly show up within the book and show basically how people can preemptively judge people and put them into a cell to rot forever while their minds slowly destroy themselves and they die. Corruption is seen constantly with people, as there are corruption within the police officers, the courts, and most prevalent of all, people themselves. Starting with police officers, it constantly happens within Walter's own case, trying to purposely put people into blame, but also Stevenson's own pullover accident, or non-accident rather, in which he talks about his M&Ms, which first states he put his nose into the bag before tossing it back. I wouldn't be eating those M&Ms. This is almost a influential statement, showing that these corruptions, this kind of thing, is not something that Stevenson wants to deal with in his future, and this constantly is occurring within Walter's case, specifically with Myers, who has his own corruption moment and has a self-conscious issue where he's going back and forth weighing the issues of cons and pros for doing this, but in the end it's helping himself and he's trying to save himself. And later he does the opposing, knowing that he is a man that made a mistake and took his own bias and corruption and smashed it together to put an innocent man away. And this is just further exemplified constantly. And heck, with things such as Marcia, who is not only corruption but is just being hurted by her peers, it is completely against her. And no matter what, it was not intentional what she did or why it happened originally. It just makes no sense, and the ideas of corruption within this novel are constant, and the constant non-changing nature of the courts that are stuck at that small ground level makes no sense. Corruption goes deep within our bones sometimes, and it's something they live by, like the police officers do when they are encountered by, and only go against it when higher powers come after them that can affect their life. They don't care about affecting others, they only care about themselves. Something that is, sadly, just human nature. We can't help that. People are just constantly being affected by that. Now, bias is something that I've talked about already, such with Myers and with Marcia's own case, but both of those had bias within their own mental state. Myers was on a bias of himself. He thought about himself and needed to save himself. He had no choice. It was either saving himself or dying, and his brain couldn't handle that, and he didn't want to die. He wanted to be out of there. He wanted to be safe. And it makes no sense that someone like that has to make that decision. No one should be faced with a decision like that. And people are constantly having to deal with scenarios like this. A court case itself is basically saying that there's two sides with evidence presenting to each other and trying to find which one can be persuaded more likely, either through evidence or their own bias. And the most prevalent example I could find of something like this is the film 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men discusses 12 jurors who go into a case where a boy supposedly stabbed his father to death. And throughout the rest of the film, they slowly change their opinions by looking further into their evidence and slowly but surely melting their opinions by also taking their biases in. Near the end of the film, the last person basically puts his head down and tears up his photo of his son and says not guilty, because the son killed his father supposedly, and he knows that no boy would do that, even with their hatred of their father. He takes his own biases into it and completely incorporates it to create their opinion. And even within something such as To Kill a Mockingbird, the people within the community, at least on the jurors, take their own biases in and say, hey, that guy's trustworthy, but he's also white, so I can believe him within my community. And To Kill a Mockingbird shows that that thing happens easily and can convict an innocent man. And these two books have tons of correlations with them, and Stevenson even referring to Kill a Mockingbird. And I feel like the best quote from To Kill a Mockingbird can help close out this section, which is, remember, it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. A mockingbird, I would say, is an innocent man, at least within our context. An innocent man does not deserve to die. Yet somehow we always do somehow leave innocent men to kill themselves or die within prison, or just can't handle the mental state of being trapped within something like that, for doing something that is not their problem. And I think it's disgusting that our jury system still allows something like that to happen. And constantly through these two films, it shows that corruption can happen, but not only, but false justification. In the 12 Angry Men, it shows that from the outset, most of them were thinking, he's guilty, get him out, instead of taking time to look at a case. And I think what Stevenson is always saying is, even if we all have biases, our problem is we are not looking at these people like humans. We're always taking these people as if they're anything else, like they're killers or something like that. We always give them a title. If they're killers, rapists, or pedophiles, or anything of that sort, they're giving them a title, and you immediately, in your brain, just make them non-human. And instead, you should take your time, even if that's 10 to 15 minutes or hours, and look at a case, and instead say, is this really what that human deserves? Did they do everything that they deserve? And instead, we should just constantly take our time and look at these cases. And we just need to take our time and not do anything that could hurt us. We need to be strong as people. And it's hard to go against something like this. But if we go against it and we start protesting, we start going against these movements, and we show that we're not going to support something like this, then I think we can make that change that we really, truly need. And it might be hard, and it's not something that we can just easily sit back and do like most people want to do. Most people want to take their easiest way out of things sometimes, and that's okay. But do remember that sometimes the hardest things to do are the most right things to do. It's never easy to do something, but we always have to keep being brave, brave, brave. Thank you.